global, multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-technic shamanism.
Synchro-mystic.
Transformation of consciousness.
Such an incredible connection to this medicine and this culture.
That we can form a larger community that can make the invisible visible.
We're going to come into new expressions.
Where did psychedelics come from?
The sacred mirrors were based on a psychedelic experience.
Thank you, Palenque Norte.
Welcome to Palenque Norte. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Palenque Norte. Yeah, it's been a few months of crazy preparations, and now we're finally here. So we're very, very happy to have you all with us this morning. So thanks for coming out early on a Tuesday. So it's going to be an awesome 4 days of over 25 hours of lectures happening here in the Crystal Cavern. And I invite you guys to check out the schedule, join us for some more. So to start it off, I'm going to bring up Bruce Damer here to give a brief history on Palenque Norte.
So hello. This is the August 10th year of Palenque Norte, except we stopped in 2007 because Lorenzo got tired of this whole thing. He's turned 70 this year, and he will be listening in, and I'm sending him Facebook postings all the time, and he's very, very excited. But just as a brief history, Palenque Norte had its roots way back. We were all collecting the works of Terence, Mckenna, Timothy Leary, recordings. Lorenzo had this interest in, he's a radio guy. I mean, this is a retired naval officer from Vietnam. He was just singing his praises. He was in the movie South Pacific as a stuntman. He was a Dallas, Texas Republican lawyer, fundraiser for the Republican Party, and then he discovered something, and he's Irish, and he's still Irish, and he still has his law practice for law in Texas. But he also did, I think, probably 100,000 hours of public programming on television, radio, and 1,000 public speaking engagements for motivational entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So this is why Lorenzo Haggerty is such quality in his presentation. If you don't know this, the introductions to the Salon podcast, he writes them and he rehearses them. That's how careful this man is. And he's done 322 podcasts since 2005 or 6 when it started. And so this is week for week for week. It's one of the most durable brands, all thanks to Lorenzo Haggerty. A bunch of us behind the scenes were digitizing the Trialogues tapes, and when Terence's archive was destroyed, we made a special put Humpty Dumpty back together project to get Terence Mckenna reconstituted, for better or for worse. And I wanted to say that Palenque Norte started in Podville in 2003, directly across the playa, except of course it was a much smaller playa, so it was probably like over there. And we were surprised. I mean, it was Lorenzo's initiative, but it was the first speaker series at Burning Man ever attempted. And now, if you look, there's a whole guide to Inteleki on the playa, right? So, yeah, we started that. This series started that. And from day one, I mean, there we were with, tape-based recording media. Can you believe that? I had a little silver, early digital Sony recorder, and we managed to get a bunch of talks. We had to tape it to a stick so people could hand it around. It was the only thing that captured several of the talks. So we've come a long way. But Palenque Norte got started sort of like, can we do this on the playa? This is in honor of the Palenque ethnobotany seminars that were held in Mexico, co-organized by Ken Symington and others. And we decided that we were going to revivify Palenque. We won't have a swimming pool to sit around, but we have this fantastic environment, and we're going to bring it north. So that's why it's called Palenque Norte. We brought the spirit of Palenque here. And it really, and for 2003 through 2007, they were rocking. And that was a huge portion of the early Psychedelic Salon material. And the energy that people have when they're here on the playa, the openness, the ideas, the funny ideas that come, the group mind that happens made that magic happen. And that injected juice into the podcast like nothing else could. And it injected new voices. I mean, when Daniel Pinchbeck was really starting to come out, his first book was out, he was here and he was high energy and it was fantastic. And Alex and Allison Gray and their daughter all talking at once. And I got my start in this kind of strange rapping in that year. So it was hugely important for us. And so to bring it back, we were going to bring it back for 2012. We were doing a program on Terence Mckenna's life, and we thought, heck, we've got to go back to Burning Man. It's 2012, and it then became a revivification of Palenque Norte through Pez's incredibly good works and everybody that you don't know and don't see that's behind the scenes. And we found the camp and Annie Oak and the Saraswati Tea House, and it all just came together fantastically. And then we started cooperating with other speaker series, and with Fractal Nation we agreed to share speakers. So this is kind of a partnership to Fractal Nation. So like I'm speaking at Fractal Nation tomorrow at 8:30, and they've sent people over here. So it's across the playa, and there's parallel tea houses, exactly parallel across the playa. Think of it, it's almost too coincidental to believe. So I'm taking too much time here, but just the joy of seeing this back and your faces and the new material, the fresh material. A lot has happened in 5 years. And there's a lot new, and then this will keep our dear friend Lorenzo cranking away for a year with content. If we get 25 hours, probably 21.2 of them are going to be usable, and so all your voices will go out again as a pulse to the world. And one last note, I mean, the Salon podcast I asked him recently, and he said, well, how many downloads he podcasted one of my raps from Esalen from June just on Monday, and he said it's 8,000 to 10,000 downloads per day when I put a new podcast like that up or something people are interested in. So it's huge. I mean, you're talking net aggregate, it's probably 500,000-600,000 people have listened to, and we meet people that listen to that podcast, the Lorenzo's podcast, since they were a kid. They're 21. Oh, yeah, I grew up on the podcast. So that's what you get when you get this persistent quality over 6-7 years, week to week. You get audience. To Lorenzo. So this is a Lorenzo Love Fest and a relaunch of Palenque Norte, and I think a whole new generation can take it from here every year at Burning Man and elsewhere. And he wants to do salons that are remote, where he will come in via Skype, and you can do a salon in your living room anywhere. So that's an initiative we can talk about more later. But with that too long introduction, and did I mention this thing? Okay, so this strange looking thing is Carolyn here. I guess she's over in the tea house. So 6 years ago, about the time we did the last Palenque Norte, I met Dennis Berry, who's the trustee for the Leary archive, and she's kind of is interesting. You meet someone at a party and you don't know what they do, and then 5 minutes later it sort of changes your life when you find out that she was carrying around 500 boxes of Timothy Leary's personal effects, books, manuscripts, recordings, 500 boxes. And this is about the time that Terence's archive burnt. So there were no physical archives left for Terence Mckenna, and here was Leary with 500 boxes, and she took me to the storage unit, two big storage unit. We started going through them, and they've been going through them for years, and film projects had been based in research and stuff, but it was astounding. It was the whole counterculture, because Tim was a pack rat. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of newspaper clippings of all the stories up, from that entire era. There were books, there were, I just mentioned, reel-to-reel, boxes of reel-to-reel tapes. Cooper Union speech, 1964. It's like, okay, has this been digitized? So we started the project of dumping the Leary archive into the salon. Under Creative Commons license, the family had no issues. There were no, we could use Creative Commons again. So we had another huge thing. And in a box was this thing, which we kind of ignored. It was like a thing in a box. We didn't know what it was. And so it came the magic day when we finally found a home for the archives. The New York Public Library wanted to take them for their American history, master's collection or whatever it was. Their truck came from Queens, came backed up into the warehouse in Livermore and loaded and loaded and loaded, and I wasn't there. And then suddenly I got this call from Dennis saying, I'm crying. They left 150 boxes that they didn't want, and they were supposed to take everything, and I don't know what to do. So I said, I'm coming with the RV. Would you give them to me? If they don't, you don't want them. The family doesn't want this stuff. So I took his library, his record collection, the remains of it, clothing, some ashes, the ashes distribution kit. They took the ashes by mistake. They're in the warehouse in Queens. We have to get them back. And there was a wallet. There was a date book with Woody Allen's home phone number in it, which probably still works because I think he lives with his parents, right? Probably. Sorry, Woody. Marlon Brando's home phone number. Anyway, and in a box, and one of the last things I was able to stuff to the gills in the motorhome on top of 2,000 pounds of books and newspaper clippings was, I said, well, what is this thing? And, oh, I'm just going to, that's going to the dumpster. I said, no, it's not. There's a story behind this. And it turns out this was the chandelier that hung in Tim's house in Beverly Hills over the dining table all those years. And one day, Carolyn Ferris, who's in this camp, she's working the tea house now, it was gold. And she said, Tim, this is so freaking ugly. And Carolyn's an incredible artist. And he said, well, what do you want to do about it? I want to paint it. So they ripped it out of the ceiling, and she painted it, and her name is underneath it. And it was hung over a Keith Haring kind of table. And then it hung there for years. So what things this has overheard. But for us, this is like, Tim is here. We brought Tim to the playa. And we didn't even have, it was already dusty and dirty and crappy, so I didn't have to clean it up. And Ken Adams in the back here is bringing Terence Mckenna to the playa, with the film tonight of Terence Mckenna Experience. 2 screenings. You got to see it. It's unique new material. It's a unique way of doing an art / psychedelic / joy-filled, idea-filled collage. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a new kind of film. So it's tonight. And so that brings and revivifies Mckenna here. So the dream we had years ago bringing Terence and Tim to Burning Man is happening right here. Right here, right now, right today. So I'm way over my time. There's a hook somewhere behind the stage, so I better... the hook. The rubber bands. We had to hand out Nerf bats and stuff. Okay, thank you very much for being part of this.